So I'm back talking about gastroparesis again. It's not just introducing it as a topic, it's not talking about other things, it's just about gastroparesis. And it's something that's kind of annoying to live with, and you have to basically work with it on a day-to-day basis. You have to make sure what you're eating is really low in fat, really low in fiber. You have to check what you're eating. You don't just eat um, whatever you want, because you have to be careful. Because if you don't check, or if you don't pay attention, you're going to be in a lot of pain, or you're not going to be able to eat at all later on. Now, if you have a really good dietitian, they can help you kind of figure out how to eat without having to pay as much attention, because they can guide you on ways to change how you eat so that you can plan ahead to meal plan and make meals that are homemade, that are lower fat and lower fiber, that are not going to irritate your stomach so much. And meal planning is basically pretty much the only way to make sure that your stomach does not get irritated throughout the week. It's the only way that I've found to not have an upset stomach most of the time without also accidentally starving myself. You have to basically, with gastroparesis, you're having to eat often in small amounts. You don't want to be going without eating for more than 4 to 5 hours. You can go without eating for longer than that, but it isn't a good idea, because when you're eating such a low fat diet, you aren't able to get as many calories in as if you were eating higher fat. Because fat is where the higher calories are at. Fat is how you get a good amount of calories. Now, fat is also how you get a lot of nutrition otherwise as well. But because of how long it takes for the body to digest fat, and because gastroparesis is where the stomach is partially paralyzed, you have to eat low fat because your body can't move the fat through your body, or fiber, because fiber also takes a long time to process. So you're having to eat low fat and low fiber because your body can't move it through as fast. So because of that, you're having to eat foods that happen to be lower in calorie half the time, if not most of the time. If you're eating something that's high calorie that is low fat and low fiber, it's usually really high in sugar or really high in other carbs. But it's still not as high a calorie as most things that are high in fat or high in fat and protein tend to be. Now, one of the things that I've found is most helpful for me, and my dietitian has recommended, that we've both found that has been very helpful, is when I plan to eat something solid, I don't eat liquids around the time before and after for a while, so that when my stomach is processing the solid food, it's not fighting between processing a liquid as well. Because if it's processing a liquid at the same time, then I'm just giving myself a lot more pain to deal with than if I just give my stomach the space and energy to just work on a solid food. Now, the problem comes in is when I try a new food that I'm not certain whether it can handle that high of fat content of, such as when I tried a mayo and chicken mixture a few weeks ago. And I discovered that my body just can't handle mayo. So instead of mayo now, I use low-fat Greek yogurt, or, well, not low-fat, it's non-fat Greek yogurt. And that I'm testing tonight with a non-fat Greek yogurt with buffalo sauce with chicken for a buffalo chicken pasta. And hopefully that'll go well. But that's kind of the way that you have to organize meal planning, so that instead of eating, say, buffalo chicken pasta where you add like cream cheese and mayo and all that stuff, you can just add non-fat Greek yogurt and maybe some reduced fat cheddar and then the hot sauce or buffalo sauce, whatever you prefer, and maybe a seasoning, and see how that goes. Um, Another thing recommended for gastroparesis is to avoid spicy food. Um, it is not a get rid of spicy food. If your stomach is already used to a certain level of spice, you probably are fine. It is when your stomach is reactive or irritated from the spice, it is going to have a harder time processing it, and therefore you're damaging your stomach by eating that, and you don't need to be hurting it more, because then it has to recover from that. But if you're meal planning with basically a meal that you can eat in very small parts, so when I eat this buffalo chicken pasta, I might have 2 cups of pasta of the pasta that I'm eating. I'll eat 2/3 of a cup over the course of 20 minutes, and then about half an hour to 45 minutes later, I'll eat another 2/3 of a cup, and then another quarter, 3/4 of an hour later, or another hour and a half later, depending on how my stomach is doing, I'll finish it up. I don't eat it all at once. I spread it out because my stomach has to have time to process it. Even if it is really low fat, the volume matters as well. It is not just a case of eat low fat, eat low fiber, and you're fine. Volume is a really big issue too. So, if you're if you're in the liquid stage of the gastroparesis diet, where you're in the first like 1 to 3 days, where you're getting into the diet where you're just in the liquid phase of getting your stomach emptied so that you can start having your stomach empty regularly. The reason you're eating the liquid diet is to give your stomach time to empty while also getting at least some nutrients in you. And you'll notice when you're eating that, and if you've already been through it, you probably know, when you're drinking that stuff, you probably get nauseous if you go over a certain amount. And that is the volume of your stomach that in its capacity. And because their stomach has a capacity, and if you tend to watch competitive eaters like I do for fun, because it happens to be fun to see how much people can stuff their face when I can't do that to any extent, you'll learn that, hey, the stomach has a capacity, and mine is really small, and it's gotten even smaller over time because of my illness. And a lot of people with this illness have quite small capacity. And that is why they recommend small meals often. And when you're drinking liquids, it's small amounts often. So they'll recommend like 4 ounces every hour, or 6 ounces every hour and a half, or 45 minutes, or stuff like that. It's not a lot. It is a very small amount, but enough to keep you hydrated consistently. And it's very important to keep yourself fed while also balancing all this stuff about how much fat you're getting in your body, as well as how many calories and stuff like that. If you've got an eating disorder you're dealing with as well, make sure that with the dietitian you have, if you have one, if you don't, please get one. Make sure they know about the eating disorder if you have one, because it can be a really triggering time to go through it. I don't have an eating disorder, so I get away with it. But with this illness, the amount of focus on getting food in your body is really hard, and you have to focus so much on eating that making sure that it doesn't become a chore is really important. So how I do that day to day is I don't make actual meals usually. I have one actual meal a day, and it's usually my dinner. Sometimes I'll have an actual meal at lunch if I've already had it prepared or I happen to think of something. But usually day to day, my lunches are just a couple snacks combined. And I might not even finish my lunch. I might just snack on the rest of my lunch during my work day or over the course of the day on the weekend. I don't really eat meals except for dinner. And my dinner usually lasts about 3 or 4 hours because of how long it takes me to eat, because of how slow my stomach empties and how full it gets so quickly. And basically eating large snacks or little snacks often is a really good way to go to get your stomach to cooperate when you're at the point where your stomach is refusing to um, increase the amount of fat it can tolerate or increase the amount of fiber it can tolerate. Because depending on what triggers your stomach the most, it might be that it reacts more to fiber. It might be that it reacts more to fat. For me, mine reacts more to fat than fiber, but it does react to both. And it's really important to make sure it doesn't become a chore. Because once it becomes a chore, then it's just become just a pain to deal with, and then eating is not fun. Eating is just a pain to deal with, and you dread it each time it comes around, and you don't look forward to it. And that's not how eating is meant to be. Eating is meant to be something you look forward to. So how I make my meals something I look forward to is choosing something that I can enjoy. So today is something I enjoy would be buffalo chicken pasta. Tomorrow it'll probably be spaghetti. The next day it might be mushroom stir fry. The next day, I don't know, but it'll be something. Something to look forward to, something simple, because I don't have a lot of energy. You probably don't have a lot of energy either, because when you're dealing with this, you're not getting much nutrients in your body most of the time. And if you are, it's really rare, and if you are, I'm very glad. But if you aren't, I'm in the same place. It just takes time. I'm getting more in than I used to, but it just takes time, and it's a long process. So, but it's worth it. And I don't know what to do next. I think I'm stuck. I think I'm fishing. Let's see. I'll have to check when I go back here, because this is a voiceover. And it probably is obvious now. I wonder how long it took to be noticed that this is a voiceover. Anyhow, do not focus on eating being a chore if you can. Eating needs to be fun. So if you have to get stuff like fruit snacks, do it. If you get things like fruit cups, do it. I get fruit cups. I get the ones that are like the in 100% juice, because that's what my dietitian recommended. Well, 100% juice, 100% water, whatever it was. I think it's the 100% juice. But that's what I get, because they're easy, they're simple. This week I got these cheese sticks that I eat with saltines. And then I also got these fig bars that are fat-free. And they've been kind of fun. But just do something fun with your food, because if you don't, it gets quite miserable, and you don't want food to be miserable. You don't want your life to be miserable. Make it worthwhile to eat. So if you have to get foods that are a little less difficult to deal with. If you want to listen to more of what I talk about, you can look at the video that is posted in the end card on this video. And thanks for listening. Ciao.